got a great feeling from Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey in the morning makes me feel alive. Woke me up this morning, now I'm up and on my way. Oh, 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 yeah, what a great way to start your day, the Lakey way.
Well, it is a great way to start your day with me, isn't it? I'd be very happy if I were you. If you got to wake up next to me every morning, wouldn't you be excited? Don't answer that out loud because it could get you in trouble either way. Your spousal unit will be very jealous or grossed out. I'm not sure. Anyway, good to have all of you here on the show. It's Hump Day, halfway till Friday in America. Pleasure to have you here. I remember I've got some news. I want to dive into the headlines here, but let's start with the White House remodel. I remember a few years ago, I was in the days of radio, I would sometimes tune in to see what other talk show hosts maybe were talking about, or if there were topics that were breaking stories throughout the day, and I would sometimes get fascinated by the commercial and the production of the radio. And I'd say, well, that's a well-produced show. That's a horribly produced show. I'd sometimes text the program director and say, hey, the promos aren't running right because no one else cared except me. I was the only guy that gave a rat's ass about the station I was on. And so I would let them know. Well, I remember driving down the road and I found this one commercial was very intriguing to me. And it was we want you to take the first online or on-air, over-the-air, hands-free, I think it's a pre-diabetes test. And you're supposed to have your hands on the steering wheel because you're driving down the road. And they start giving off all these symptoms of if you do this, raise a finger. And if you have more than 3 fingers up, you probably should get checked out to see if you have diabetes or pre-diabetes. I don't know if you've ever heard the commercial, but it was a fascinating public service announcement. By the way, when you hear commercials like that on the terrestrial radio signal, that generally means they haven't sold a commercial and they're running a public service announcement. Anytime you hear an ad brought to you by the Ad Council, that basically means they didn't sell the spot, and so they're putting in free promos for somebody, Ad Council. So just throw that out there, a little inside baseball when you hear that. So I remember the pre-diabetes check. And yesterday I was very surprised to see that the left had gone very crazy again. They've gone crazy about he's a tyrant, he's a Nazi, and now he's going to add a ballroom to the White House. And all of a sudden, I didn't know what was happening. I saw even some people that I know posted, "This is our house." And I started to go, what the hell are they talking about? And it was the line that they picked up from their lords and their masters and the people that are their puppeteers, that was what they're supposed to say. Even Hillary Rodham Kankles Clinton started saying, it's our house, it's not his house. That was just a mantra. And I'm like, what are they talking about? And then I realized they were upset that they saw footage of the east wing of the White House being demolished in the facade so that the big, beautiful ballroom can go in. And when I saw that the left wanted to react to that and act so stupid, I said, okay, if you are reacting in any way to the remodeling of the White House, the addition of a ballroom, then you are I'm going to say it to you right to your face. If you reacted that way at all, you were an intellectually bankrupt, indoctrinated asswipe. There was no reason for you to give apoplectic about that. I mean that sincerely. You are an idiot. If you reacted, this is our house, with this outrage, stop it. Nothing happens at the White House under any president that is not run by the White House Historical Association. They have to approve it. The East Wing of the White House did not exist. It wasn't built by hand by George and Martha Washington or Thomas Jefferson. It was built in 1941, and it included the Rose Garden. And one day it housed a swimming pool in that area, and then the press pool came. It's almost the whole. The White House has been remodeled and things added to it at every step. And many presidents, including Barry Hussein Obama, who many of you still worship as your Lord and Savior, having forsaken the gospel of Jesus Christ and gone to the gospel of Barry, Barry often complained that the Rose Garden was a soggy mess, and he complained that he would have to, when he entertained dignitaries, he would have to bring them into the White House, and it was a soggy mess. And he said he had to rent an expensive tent. So the leaders of the free world would have to gather into a circus tent that was rented from the local rental center, and they would have to put that up, and that was how they had meetings. And Trump says, listen, I'll pay for it. I'll get some guys. We'll pay $200 million. We'll put up the big, beautiful ballroom, and we'll call it good. And I'm going to say this again, if you're joining us, pass this around, say this to your friends. This could be the breakup of a friendship, because you just need to know if any of your friends reacted yesterday with the post that said, this is our house, this is not his house. Anybody who reacted, first of all, they show that they're intellectually a bankrupt person. They do suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, and they're just probably not even worth arguing with at that point. At that point, you know that they've just gone bat crap crazy. Let me go through the history. Perhaps you have heard this. That this is what happens in the real world that we live in. In 1902, Teddy Roosevelt built the West Wing of the White House. So you had the main complex, the main edifice, you had the West Wing. That happened in the 1900s. I go through the list. In 1903, William Taft added the first Oval Office. It was a presidential office, so that didn't even happen. In 1933, Franklin Roosevelt became president and expanded it again, adding a second floor to the West Wing and moving the Oval Office, completing the East Wing, and also even built an indoor swimming pool. All of this happened in 1933. In 1943, Harry Truman went big. He gutted and rebuilt the entire interior of the White House. Did you know that? In 1948, for all of you intellectually bankrupt jackwagons that were going apoplectic about adding a ballroom to the White House, Harry Truman gutted the entire White House and rebuilt it from the ground up. In the 1970s, you jackwagons, Richard Nixon turned the old swimming pool into the press briefing room and added a bowling alley. Now, that was the old swimming pool that John F. Kennedy was famous for having a few dalliances and inviting his friends to have some dalliances. And he would instruct the young women there to service his friends in certain ways at the swimming pool. So Donald Trump told that story just this week. He said that was the swimming pool that Jackie O would say, Secret Service, do I hear women in the pool? Do I hear women? Oh, no, ma'am, just go on upstairs. There's no women here. They would usher her away while Jack Kennedy was doing certain deeds in the swimming pool. Well, Richard Milhouse Nixon said, that's a dirty pool. I don't know if we can clean all that stuff up that might have happened in that pool. And so when Richard Milhouse Nixon became the president, he ordered the concrete goes in the pool, and that became the White House press briefing room. Let me give you some more recent history, if I may. In 2009, Barry Obama took out the tennis court, had it gutted, and he decided to add a basketball court. And so now in 2025, President Trump decides to take the East Wing, which was built in 1940s, and make it into a ballroom. And the left goes apoplectic and says, no one's ever touched this historic building. It's not his house. No, almost every president that has entered it has touched it. They have done something. There's so many different stories of things that have been done. Hillary Rodham Kankles Clinton is 100% wrong. She's the one that posted up. It's not his house. It's our house. And a lot of other fools out there posted that. Again, the online diabetes test. Put your hands on the steering wheel. If you found yourself posting and or agreeing with anybody who said, well, first of all, if you found yourself posting, it's not his house, it's our house, raise one finger. You have Trump derangement syndrome. I'm going to tell you how severe it is. If you found yourself cheering, liking, or retweeting anybody else who said it's not his house, it's our house, raise another finger. You have a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. If you were not aware and didn't care about any of the historic renovations that have happened in the White House, and you didn't care about that and you didn't know about it until I read it, raise another finger. You have a very severe case. And I mean, the list goes on. Again, some of you people just absolutely need a total chill pill, and the left going crazy yesterday about the East Wing and the new ballroom going up is absolutely nuts. And some of you have proven once and for all that Trump derangement syndrome is not something that we just made up out of whole cloth. It is something that is very, very real. Even Hillary Clinton, who lived in the White House and had every right to do anything that she wanted within reason to the White House and the residence so they can decorate it. Hillary Clinton posting that just shows that she's a washed up old hag. And I hate to be harsh to the old lady, but it was the dumbest thing that a former first lady would ever post, especially if she said he's defiling our house when she had a husband that defiled the very Oval Office that is so sacred to many people in their historic memories of the White House. This is the Hillary Rodham Kinkles Clinton that stole the china and the silverware from the White House, about $28,000 of it. So for Hillary Rodham Kinkles Clinton to go on Twitter yesterday and say, it's our house, he's defiling it. I don't think Hillary's the best judge to jump into a conversation about who defiled the White House. Let's continue to go through. It was a while that the East Wing, eventually they added air conditioning to the White House, Wi-Fi, Secret Service checkpoints. The rebuilding of the White House has been an ongoing saga. In the early 1900s, history would tell you, the place was kind of a Victorian museum of clutter, and it took Theodore Roosevelt to rip down all the partitions, rip out the decor of the day, and expand the building to a modern presidency. But when it was first built, it was just kind of a Victorian ugly place, and it has been renovated ever since. It was Roosevelt who added the West Wing. That's the same space that every president has used since the turn of the country. What happens in the West Wing? Presidents put in busts, they take out photos. There's entire basements filled with artwork that they can choose from, and everybody makes it their own. But as far as defacing history, it was Roosevelt who built that. It was Franklin Roosevelt, his cousin, that built the other part of the White House, the East Wing. Harry Truman came, and he discovered that the floors were sagging and that the walls were separating from the outer. So he had the entire White House taken down to a shell and rebuilt it. Truman didn't whine, and people of the day weren't, oh, that's a preservation, purity. You got to keep the purity of it. No, it was the fact that he had to take care of the White House. To let the White House just sit there in a stagnant bubble is not what it's meant for. And that's why the White House Historic Association signs off on everything from the gutting of it, which happened under Truman, to the building of a ballroom in the place where the Rose Garden soggy mud field used to happen. But to watch the left yesterday again, if you had that reaction at all yesterday, or your neighbor or your spouse or your cousins or whoever, that is a sure sign that they have some level of Trump derangement syndrome, because that was absolutely nothing to get all upset about. Calvin Coolidge added a third floor to the White House. Franklin Roosevelt expanded the East Wing. Nixon put in a bowling alley. Carter put in solar panels. What did Reagan come in to do? He ripped out the solar panels and said, screw your solar panels. The story of renovation of the White House it is ongoing. It's part of American history. And if you didn't know that or don't care about that because you're so blinded by Orange Man bad, then you probably, honest to God, have become a worthless citizen to humanity. And you should seek therapy, counseling, and medication because of all the things you can not like Donald Trump for, policy or what have you, to renovate or add a taxpayer-free, non-taxpayer build ballroom to the White House. It shows that you're a special kind of stupid. So I want to throw that out there because by the end of the day, thousands of earballs will hear this show and or see this show as it loads up to the podcast version later on, and people are joining in the streams on all the platforms out there today. But I'm just telling you, that is your driving test, like I heard on the radio years ago. Hold up one finger to see if you have pre-diabetes, and that was a radio test. Well, for a commercial. Well, I have just given you the online test that if any of you posted and or circulated the memes of it's our house, it's not his house, then I'm telling you, diagnose yourself with Trump derangement syndrome, and please seek medication, and please don't own a firearm, and please just go check yourself into an institution. And I mean that pretty seriously. I mean, yesterday was just absolutely amazing, the people that got upset about the addition of a ballroom to the White House. All right, let's just switch gears here. If we may, I'll come back and do more White House history with you in just a moment, but it was fascinating to watch. I'll also do the dive into the headlines. We haven't done our headline dive yet, so we'll get to that here in just a moment. But as you may know, one of the headlines for the last many weeks has been that there is a government shutdown. There is a filibuster going on, is what it's called. The Democrats are filibustering, and they are not wanting to open up the hallowed halls of government right now because they are mad and they didn't get their way and they lost an election and they're very upset. And they say you've got to give money to illegals and and Medicaid, etc. And the Republicans say open the government until the end of November and we'll negotiate what the new budget is going to look like. And the left is going crazy about that. Let me bring into the conversation, if I may, and I may because it is my program, is Mr. Mr. Eric Weir. If you don't know Eric, he's written a fantastic little book that we've talked about before. It's called Who's Eating Your Pie? Essential Financial Advice that will transform your life. Eric Weir is in the green room, and he jumps onto the platform. If I can hit the right buttons here on the stage. There we go. Eric, welcome back to the show, sir.
I'm glad to be here. Hello and good morning.
Good morning. Were you offended yesterday? They're renovating the White House. Are you shocked?
I saw that. That's amazing. I loved your commentary. Very interesting.
There's a lot of history there, and that's just a sure sign that you have Trump derangement syndrome. All right. Some people are maybe feeling the heat of this government shutdown, especially if you get a paycheck. But I think most of us aren't. Most of us woke up this morning, had to be reminded in the news that the government was shutting down. Give me your thoughts. Government shutdown now enters, the third week we are at? And are you concerned, frightened, in fear and trepidation, Eric?
No, not at all. No. I'm doing fine. And I think for most people, we have some friends who live in DC, and for them, parks are closed. Everything is closed. Our local park, Mount Pisgah in South Carolina, is open and operating. But if you're one of the million people that are affected, not getting a paycheck, it's significant, right? So the Starbucks are slower in the DC area, but most of the U.S. is moving along as it was before the shutdown.
Do we see any end in sight? I mean, it seems as if they've pretty much, dug in their heels on both sides. Usually people are waiting to see who's going to get the political fallout for this. Poll numbers show Donald Trump has actually gone up during the shutdown. Do you think, is the end near? Is the end near?
I don't think it is. I think this is going to be the longest one. What's interesting is the budget that they're turning down is basically the budget that was substantially like the one they approved under Biden. So they're just wanting to add more to it. So it's interesting that it's leaner than what they want. But I just don't see the administration caving on this. If you look how they've handled tariffs, you look how they handled other issues, they're not really big to fold their hand.
It's a temporary. You mentioned it's been passed before. It's a spending measure, and it's temporary. If they passed it today, it would only be good for a month. Right. I mean, it's like you're 3 or 4 weeks is all this is going to go on. And that's what the Republicans are saying. If you want to argue about spending and get in some of these resolutions, and let's do that in the negotiation table on the budget, because it sounds like Republicans are trying to get us back on regular order and have actually an actual new budget rather than a continuing resolution. That'll be a new thing.
It would be new to be different. And if you run a business or you run a family or anything else, you have to have a budget. You have to, ideally you have income, you have expenses, and you realize if I've got to spend less than I make, or we have issues. And the government has been spending more than it's made for decade upon decade upon decade. And it's really systemic across the globe with just about with most governments, actually.
The voice of Eric Weir, if you're listening later in the day of the podcast, which thousands of earballs will do. He's written a book called Who's Eating Your Pie? Essential Financial Advice that will transform your life. He's one of the most sought after and successful financial advisors in the country. Eric Weir is my guest. Again, the name of the book is called Who's Eating Your Pie? All right, as the government's not in session right now, for the most part, the essential government's working, but the non-essential, quote unquote, is not working. I think of the question you're asking, who's eating my pie? And who's eating my pie is that government in Washington, and it's the people that probably aren't at work now in bureaucracies that we don't even know are not operating right now. That's who's eating my pie, Eric. It's the government. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, they're taking a chomp for sure. And in fact, the cover of my book has a pie on it with a missing slice, and the story behind that is I was making a quarterly estimated tax payment, and I had a son, Harrison, who was 8 years old at the time. And I was not in the greatest mood. I'm writing a check. I hate this, but I paid it. And he goes, "Daddy, what are taxes?" And I thought quickly, how can I explain taxes to an 8-year-old? They're not going to understand. So about that time, his mom dropped a slice of apple pie right in front of him with an ice cream on it. And I took a bold action with my fork, took a big piece, and I ate it. And his face was like, ah! And I said, "That's taxation." And then I went back with another fork, and I was teaching him martial arts at the time. So 2 hands, he blocks my hand like that. And I go, "That's planning." so that was really an interesting way to teach an 8-year-old, but it's the same thing. But you got to look after it. And it is interesting to see. And the government, I believe, like most private organizations or public companies, if they had to lay off 10 or 20% of the people, they've said they wouldn't notice much of a difference in productivity. And I don't think that the government as an organization is much different.
So all of us, we go to the ballot box every 2-4 years or whatever. We vote for who we want to, and ultimately, the government doesn't seem to change that much. Republicans have spent as much as the Democrats. Donald Trump is not necessarily what I would call a fiscal conservative when it comes to spending, so all of us on Main Street and in flyover country, we still feel the same amount of pain on a regular basis that they're taxing us too much, think that the government is too big. How can we keep more of our pie? I mean, number one piece of advice that you give in the book, I want their hands out of my pie. I want as much of it for myself. And yet, no matter what I do, I feel like they're still taking the same amount.
Well, it's education and it's positioning. So if you have to be familiar with the tax law, if you remember Donald Trump in one of the debates, the first time 2016, he goes, "Mr. Trump, you paid zero income tax and you made millions of dollars." He goes, "That's because I'm smart." And we ended up doing is said, I'm using the same laws that allow for depreciation to offset my income as an active real estate professional. And it was what it was. And he says, and your constituents use the same thing. And if you don't like it, you can change the laws, but I know you won't, because people who support you benefit from that. So it's education. So there are ways to do it. There's ways to be smart. There's ways to be charitable, to give things that you're not using to get deductions, but it's endless. But it's education, and it's using the system the way it's intended to use to foster a healthy tax environment. We need to pay taxes, support the government, but there are ways that you can be smart about it and pay a more efficient amount.
In the world of politics we live in a day in which there's a little bit of class warfare. And part of that comes from people like a Bernie Sanders. We got to destroy the oligarchs. And he's talking about, I guess, rich people, and the poor people are never going to climb their way up because the oligarchs are stomping them down. What do you think? Are we controlled by a bunch of oligarchs, royal families, if you will, the Clintons, the Kennedys, the Roosevelts, the Bushes? They're the ones that are going to gain power and wealth. Maybe now you have the Zuckerberg family will live in legend, or Elon Musk children, but the rest of us, we're just plebes down here on the ground floor. Is it possible for us to actually build wealth?
It really is, and I think when people they believe lies about themselves, and when the people ask me who's eating your pie the most, and I say it's me. It's the limitations that I allow myself to believe. It's you're not enough, you don't have the education, or you don't have the network, or whatever. So I introduced a concept called reframing. And how do you reimagine and reframe whatever situation you're in? You had a marriage go bad. You've had financial situations go bad. You've had relationships go bad. Businesses go bad. There's always another day. And it starts with gratitude. It starts with taking a step back and then reimagining without your current perceived limitations what can be accomplished, because it's a mindset. And people who grow up oftentimes in poverty have what's called a poverty mindset. I didn't invent that word. That's a pretty well-known word out there. And it's how they view themselves. And it's difficult to make change. And it's not easy. I mean, in no way am I trying to make light of it, but it is possible to reimagine and reinvent yourself.
I have started a few businesses. Some of them have been successful. Some of them have not been successful. I think that's the story of an entrepreneur. And I've got a lot of friends who are still entrepreneurs, and so am I. And I'm thinking that I've heard it said by a lot of those friends, don't work for the man. You can never get ahead of, you got to build your own thing. Don't be a salaried employee. Get out from under the thumb of the man. Most people out there don't have that entrepreneurial spirit, but they do want to build wealth. And they think they're doomed because you're still punching the time clock as a salaried or hourly employee. What do you say to them?
I think that you can be a salaried employee, you can be an hourly. You have the same opportunities. And if you look at the income of the average entrepreneur, oftentimes it's not much more. Sometimes it's less, and oftentimes they work more, than the people that have a salaried or an employee. But if you're at a company that has a retirement plan and you contribute, oftentimes they match. If they do, then you should do it. It's an automatic return of 50%, 100% in some cases. If they don't, then you can set up a Roth IRA, depending on your income level, where the money grows tax-free. You take it out without ever paying taxes, and do something simple like buy an S&P 500 index fund. And if you say, heck, those are dreams, that's not for me, I don't have enough money for that, then try to have a side hustle. Try to anything from buying and selling on eBay. There's a book of the guy that started with $10 and turned it into $1 million on eBay just to prove it could be done. And just he bought something on eBay for 10, sold it for 15, and he did that until he ended up with $1 million. So there's countless ways to create wealth depending on your skill set, your abilities, where you are. It's reframing, it's reimagining, and it's getting out of your own way oftentimes.
You mentioned a 401k. Most people that work for the man, if you will, they have those 401ks.
Sure.
And for the most part, that's kind of, you kind of, they set it up and forget it. And when, you'll figure it out later. But you mentioned a bunch of other things that some people go, I appreciate that. I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to get going. I'm afraid of the stock market. My parents never taught me that.
Sure.
I'm afraid I'll lose money. All my money's going to the 401k. I mean, walk us through that, because a lot of folks live paycheck to paycheck.
100%.
They're putting in that money in the 401k, and they're like, I don't know what to even do with the rest of it in those couple of hours that I have in the evening before dinner.
Yeah. So what you can actually do, there's been some wonderful tools that are great for education that are new, last couple of years. You can go to ChatGPT and have a unpaid subscription and say, I'm at work at a company. What are things I could do to save? It'll give you 10 ideas. What are different retirement programs that I could do? And explain that to me in simple terms. You just query. You can literally put that in there and here's a Roth IRA. Here's an IRA. They can explain it to you. Or if you're able to get time with a financial advisor, or you can do that. An H&R Block sometimes will do free consultations for people that are getting started, and they have some level of knowledge. So depending on where you are, your level of knowledge or expertise, you can get on a computer and ask. You don't have a computer, you can go to a library and ask. You can look things up. But the knowledge is more accessible now than it's ever been in the history of mankind. And just about everything that you can think of or have a question about, you can get an opinion on fairly quickly.
Scott's posting on the Rumble. It says only 2 hardcover copies of Eric's book are available on Amazon. He said, I just bought 3. There's 2 left. So everybody go over to Amazon and buy the book. I'm sure there's going to be more hardcovers coming, but real-time reporting on your sales going over there from our listeners.
Oh, good. I know Amazon was running low, so order more, and I'm sure they'll ship them. We have some remaining in the warehouse.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. I spent years in the music industry, managing artists, promoting shows across America. So I have a musical background as far as the industry part of it. And I was listening to a podcast, a long setup, and I'll get to you. I was listening to a podcast yesterday of an artist that I know is very well known, very esteemed. He's on a podcast, and he was talking about at the height of his career, he needed some extra money. So he was out driving Uber at night, and he was driving the Uber. And finally, after a week, someone actually recognized him and said, "Are you so-and-so?" And he goes, yeah, he goes, I was kind of embarrassed, and I didn't know why I was embarrassed, because, everybody has a different perception of fame and fortune and what that looks like. The question to you becomes, you have helped a lot of some of the wealthiest people in the country, Grammy-winning music artists, CEOs, and my friend who was a musician had a pain threshold, and his royalties and stuff, he just needed some extra money. All of us are like the rest of us, whether you're multi-Grammy winning musical artist or a CEO, everybody feels that pain of pressure of money. Am I correct?
100%. I've seen people, I've been in the room with them, know them on cell phone numbers, good friends when I see them. And I mean, we all have similar problems. We have relationship problems. We have kid problems. We have financial problems. And if you're making, $35,000 a year, or many, many hundred times that, there's taxation, there's issues. There's always something coming on. So I think that the key is enjoy life where you are today. Be grateful for what your people within a mile of your house, no matter how bad it is, would trade for you in a second to have your life. So have gratitude and take a step back and have plans. And some of the people I've had the privilege of talking to were people that were in a halfway house. They're just out of prison. And they're saying, Eric, I've got a criminal record. No one will hire me. And I'm like, well, could you wash a window? Yes. I said, well, could you go to your local town and say, hey, I'm starting my life over. Could I wash your windows for $75? And I would really appreciate the opportunity. And if you're not totally pleased, it's free. Because if you do it for free, you're not doing anything anyway. So what's the matter? Yeah. They're like, wow, I'll try that. I said, authenticity is irresistible. Telling somebody you're starting your life over, being authentic. And he did it. And then within a month of doing that, he had 2 other people who were less comfortable selling, doing the work while he went door to door, and he made $10,000. He went that from in a halfway house, recently released from prison, no visible skills, but he could clean a window. So that's what I'm saying. How do you reimagine yourself? And no matter what the situation is, there's hope for a better tomorrow.
And pride sometimes gets in the way. We're like, oh, I'm 40 years old, and I can't go get that extra gig, wash the windows. I'm a famous artist. I can't be driving Uber. I know actual artists, not top tier, but B-level, C-level, that I've gone through the Starbucks and drive-through in Starbucks in Nashville, and there's the backup band working as my barista. You got to get rid of the pride and say, I gotta do this.
One of my sons, and I'm so proud of him, that he was in school, and he goes, "Dad, I didn't want to ask you for any additional money, so I got a job at Uber Eats, and I've been delivering meals." And I was like, "I'm so proud of you for doing that. Thank you." And if you'd asked me, "Hey, can I have $100?" I would have given it to him, but he didn't want to do that. And it was just, but that the entrepreneurial spirit, there's no place better. I travel the world, but in 74 countries. There's not a better place to create wealth in the United States. And wealth is a different thing to different people. It might just be, hey, I've got a comfortable place to sleep and 3 squares a day and my family's taken care of. That's perfectly fine. And wealth for wealth's sake will destroy people. It's a balanced life, faith, family, fitness, finance, friends. But all I'm saying is this is the country to make it happen. You can do it. And there's a lot of reason to wake up and be happy every single day.
All right, the name of the book is called Who's Eating My Pie? Essential Financial Advice that will transform your life. Eric, real quick, give the motivation, your background, why you wrote the book, and why you thought it was so necessary.
Yeah, I wrote the book during COVID when I saw people getting disconnected and depressed and feeling really broken down. And I'm like, I want to give them some encouragement from my own life experiences as a boy in a car wreck with a brain injury that couldn't speak. And I went to a therapist. I said, Eric, life's going to be hard. Odds are you're going to be a failure. You'll be reclusive. And that's how things are going to go for you. And I'm like, wow. But she reframed it without using that term and said, or you can view your setbacks and your limitations, your struggles as stepping stones. You can climb them to success. It's up to you, Eric. And it was really interesting because I didn't start life thinking life would be easy or the world owed me anything. And that was the stepping stone for me. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. I'm going to have setbacks. And when you stutter, like I did through age 40, you have that every single day, and it creates tremendous anxiety. So trying to push through that was really helped me get stronger to push through and use your setback, use your current struggle as ammunition and fuel, not as an excuse.
All right, you got people listening to the last question, 50, 60 years old, 40 up. They're like, man, I started too late. I'm way behind. I'm never going to get to retire. I'm never going to know financial independence. Talk to that group of folks and say, I'm just now getting started. Is it too late?
Man, 60 is the new 40. Get going. Let's go. Let's go. I mean, Kentucky Fried Chicken founder, Colonel Sanders, 64 years old. He got an idea about fried chicken. I mean, we can go on. Ray Kroc. There's so many people that you know their names. And you don't have to be Colonel Sanders. You don't have to be Ray Kroc, but you can get started. Remove the excuses. The journey is so fun, and actually taking the first step will cause anxiety to go down 70-80%. My experience, anxiety stops when action begins.
All right, Amazon.com. Go order those books. It's called Who's Eating Your Pie? Essential Financial Advice that will transform your life. Eric Weir, it's a pleasure to have you on again. I appreciate you jumping in.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and Tyler, thank you. Happy to come on anytime.
You got it. You got it. Eric Weir again. Who's Eating Your Pie? Essential financial advice that will transform your life. And there's your advice. I have not ordered the book yet. I just realized that I buy a lot of the books and had Eric on last time, and I don't think I got the book. I have some notes from the book. I've read excerpts from the book, but I'm going to have to do that order here today and get on the Amazon.com and order some books. Now that I have the fancy glasses that I can actually read now. See, remember the glasses from this week. I got the readers, but I may do audiobook. I may do audiobook. Anyway, good to have all of you here on the show. Jimmy is my name. Pleasure to be here Wednesday, October the 22nd, year of our Lord, 2025. And again, the name of that book is called Who's Eating Your Pie? And it's by Eric Weir, W-E-I-R. How's everybody doing out there? We've got a question of the day that I want to get out there to you, give you an opportunity to converse with us here in the studio with us. And by the way, before the question of the day, we're coming up on Halloween, right? Okay. According to a new survey, most singles say that the loneliest holiday of the year is not Valentine's Day. They say it's Halloween. Let me tell you the whole story. For single people, the holidays can be rough, some people more than others. In fact, there's a one day that makes people feel the most lonely of the year, and you may thought it was Valentine's, but it's not. It's Halloween. According to a new survey from dating.com, 59% of single people say Halloween is one of the hardest days of the year, and 57% say it's actually worse than Valentine's Day. Nearly 80% of singles admit to feeling lonely on October the 31st, and more than half have said they've cried after opening the door to trick-or-treaters. Let me say that again. Nearly 80% of people say they admitted to feeling lonely on October the 31st, and more than half have said they have cried, quote, cried after opening the door to trick-or-treaters. Hey, I don't judge here, but I'm thinking, what are you? Hey, trick or treaters, I'm just chopping onions. It's good. I just give you some Snickers. I don't know what's going on here. There was a couple of possible explanations in the survey. Number one, they thought that Halloween is built around groups, and there's trick-or-treating kids, parties, couples, costumes, and families all hanging out together, and you're the lonely despot handing out Skittles. I don't see any shame in that or problem with that, but it makes some people feel extremely lonely. I guess if you are crying, though, you can put on a mask and no one even knows you're crying. Yeah. I don't know. The two reason people say that Halloween's worse than Valentine's Day for feeling lonely, even for people who are low key and kind of, I guess, introverts. A lot of people celebrate Halloween by watching scary movies and making festive food and treats. And it's not as fun to watch a scary movie or eat festive treats all by yourself. Either way, people say it can be a struggle. 77% of singles admit that they pretended to have plans on Halloween, and 73% say that social media makes it worse, seeing all the fun that other people have, and they're not getting to have any fun. So it's a very lonely day. So mark your calendar that 9 days from right now is going to be Halloween, and you better check in with your single friends because they could be handing out Skittles while they cry behind a mask. Just throwing that out there as a way to help humanity. All right, question of the day. Sorry, I just think that's interesting. All right, question of the day I have for you today is I want you to think back in time. It's always fun to reminisce with how life used to be. Not that we want to be the old geezers and say, oh, it's the good old days, my friends. But let's talk about the good old days. Some things that years ago were actually considered to be luxury, as they were considered normal. But if you do those today, it's actually considered to be a luxury. I want you to think that there's a survey that people did in which they were talking about things that were 20 to 30 years ago. This was normal. It was not a big deal to have this. And now, if you actually have this, it's a luxury. Let me give you a couple of examples to prime the pump of how much your brains to go on this and kind of think about how just kind of how things operate out there in our heads. 20, 30 years ago, maybe when you were in high school or the college age, you might have experienced certain things like leg room on an airplane. Flying even 20 to 30 years ago was much better than it is now. I remember flying in the 90s. I was on a missions trip with my church, and it was the first time I'd flown, second time I'd flown to South America on this missions trip. And I remember we landed, I think we're in Santiago, Chile on this trip, and we flew back to Miami, Florida, and then Miami, we're going back to Dallas, Fort Worth, and I don't know. I'm a youngster out there. I'm late teens. And I remember getting on the flight from Miami back to DFW, and the sun was coming up, and it was exciting because I'd been on a missions trip with my church. And I remember suddenly they came down the aisle. We're in coach, man. We're just a bunch of missionaries, and we're in coach, and they hand me a plate, and it's like an omelet. And I'm in coach, and I'm getting breakfast. I'm like, I didn't know they did that. But yeah, 30 years ago, flying was a lot better. So now it's considered a luxury. I mean, now you're doing good to buy a bag of peanuts. And, you know, if you're in first class, they may feed you a business class. But if you're in coach, getting food is not going to happen on a domestic flight. It will on an international flight, but not on a domestic flight. So that's something that 20 to 30 years ago was actually considered to be normal. But today it's going to... be considered a luxury. All right, the first one to jump in off the Rumble feed is Scott for QOD. He has the AOD. Having a full-size car that had a back seat worthy and capable of adult relationships. This is where we go right out of the chute. Things, I was talking about being a missionary as an 17, 18-year-old, and Scott's having sex in the back seat with someone. All right, Scott. I don't. Remember, Laura Carno sometimes calls me incorrigible. I don't think I think it's some of you people out there. All right, so I want you to give me some more things that are 20, 30 years ago, they were considered normal, but now it would be considered abnormal or kind of even luxurious. Here's another one that made the list, concert tickets. How many of you used to get physical concert tickets from the Ticketmaster or wherever? They printed them out and they tore it or they scanned it and you hung it on a wall or a bulletin board. You don't get that anymore. Now, if you go to a concert, you'd have no souvenir from that concert. Concert tickets were something that came up on the list 20 to 30 years ago. Something that seemed normal, but is now considered a luxury, is a single income family being able to buy a house. That's a true one. All right, everybody jump into the conversation. We're going to dive into the headlines. I'll come read some of your comments. Things that 20 to 30 years ago or previously were considered normal, but now if you have these or you participate in this, it is considered a luxury. That is your question of the day, things that you used to have. Smoking section on international flights, Jeff says. Yeah, that was considered normal. It was considered normal on a domestic flight. I'll never forget, my dad would take me on a few small business trips, and we would sometimes end up at Southwest Airlines at a love field. I'll never forget. We had the seat you chose because it was open range seating. He'd choose a seat, the two of us together, and we were right by the curtain where the smoking section was behind there. So smoking used to be considered normal. Now, I guess I would love a cigar flight. I mean, the plane would probably smell, but you can clean that up. I would love to be on a plane with with cigar smokers and ventilation. You got to vent it out. And I guess they used to do cigarettes that way, so that worked out. Being able to pay in cash for everything. Yeah, that's a big deal. The other day I was in line and they flipped that screen around for me to pay, like swipe my card and tip. And I held up cash and the young lady behind the register looked horrified, like, oh, I haven't seen cash all day. She knew what to do, but yeah, that was considered 20, 30 years ago is normal to pay in cash, and it's still normal if you're in the Dave Ramsey plan. If you're off the Dave Ramsey plan, then you're tapping that debit or credit card all the time. Just keep track of it, kids. Just keep track of it. Here's another one, and I'm going to do some headlines after this one, but I'm getting your brain going. 20 to 30 years ago, things that used to be considered normal that now would be considered luxuries. You ready for this one? As the British say, privacy. Back in the day, we actually used to be able to let loose, have a good time, think of all the shenanigans you did in high school or middle school or college or in your 20s, and you did not have to fear the risk of it being recorded, popping up on social media, and ruining your career down the line because of your teenage or college age antics, right? You didn't have to worry about that. Well, privacy used to be, I know our kids would be shocked now, privacy used to be something that was considered absolutely normal. And now I don't think any of us are guaranteed that privacy because, as you can see, somebody's always got a phone, and there's always a recording somewhere. You got the lights, the cameras of the government as well. So privacy used to be something that was considered normal. So keep your answers coming. Things that were normal 30 years ago but are luxuries now, and I have no clue why it is that Scott led off with adult relationships in a backseat of a car. I don't know where. That's just immediately. I mean, we're talking 5 seconds into the question, and Scott dives into intercourse. I don't understand that, Scott, but welcome to the show. Glad to have you. All right, before we get to the memes here, I haven't done the dive into the headline, so let's do it. Let's do a dive into the headline if you're ready for some news today. You ready? Let's do it. Donald Trump remodels the White House. The left goes crazy. If you doubted your Trump derangement syndrome, don't doubt it anymore. If you doubted that anybody out there had Trump derangement syndrome, now you know that this is the most ludicrous of all the things that people have been outraged about Donald John Trump. The most ludicrous is they're outraged about the renovation of the White House, which has happened really in every presidential term. Some were major, some were minor. Harry Truman ripped out the entire guts of the White House, left up the facade, and rebuilt the inside like they're building inside of a shell. It's happened before, and that's the president's prerogative. And you could say it's also the president's responsibility to continue to improve the White House. It is the people's house. It is the presidential palace of our day, and it is up to the president to continue to make sure it doesn't fall into disrepair. This is why you've had first ladies, as soon as they get there, want to remodel, put up new drapes, new grocery, new china. What did I almost said buy new groceries, but they always want to remodel it, and that's their responsibility. I view it that every first lady and every president needs to take care of the White House as if they do live in it, treat it with pride, treat it with dignity, and continue to improve it. Democrats use the opportunity, though, to criticize Donald Trump, refraining into their account that he's a king and that he's just going to set up his presidential palace. Well, that's his responsibility. In May, Trump announced plans for a 90,000 square foot state ballroom in the East Wing. It's going to be funded solely by private donors, including Trump himself has written a check. An estimated cost of $250 million. It was designed to complement the property's neoclassical style. The ballroom will feature bulletproof glass, upgraded East Wing offices. The current largest space in the White House holds roughly 200 people. The new ballroom can accommodate up to 999 guests. Did you know? A lot of you didn't know that. The largest meeting room they have in the White House can only accommodate 200 people when they're elbow to elbow. That's why they have to set up a tent for a state dinner. And if you have a big fancy dinner and the weather's rainy, then you're walking in the mud, or you can't have a state dinner in the winter because it just doesn't work. And so they're going to make the ballroom, and this is going to be ideal for now larger state visits and events comparable to Buckingham Palace's Grand Ballroom. And also they have something similar in France. Many opponents of Trump have voiced outrage over the required demolition of portions of the East Wing. Hillary Rodham Kinkles Clinton said it's not his house, it's your house, and he's destroying it. But it was Clinton who famously returned $28,000 worth of items that she had stolen from the Clintons to the White House when her and Bill left office. It's really feign outrage, and if you doubted the existence of Trump derangement syndrome, then doubt it no further. This is true evidence of it. I mentioned this, the shutdown continues, and this is what could bring it to a conclusion, is that Trump's approval ratings have risen during the shutdown. This has shocked a lot of people. The Democrats were expecting that Americans would blame Donald John Trump, the orange man, for this, but that's because Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer both live in New York City, and they live in a bubble. Though Donald Trump's previously suffered a dip from his approval rating after government shutdowns in his first time, polling data shows him gaining ground despite the current shutdown that the Republicans and him are a part of, and the Democrats are causing it. In 2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It went down more than 3 points on this particular point of the shutdown. This shutdown hasn't even hit, according to CNN. Quote, this shutdown hasn't even hit Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually going up. This one is not hurting him at all. There's no reason for Donald Trump to say, I want to get out of the shutdown, because guess what? He's winning, and he's building popularity. Driving some of the differences is a substantial shift in the public's perception of Trump's responsibility. In 2018 and 19, 61% of Americans said it was his fault, and now only 48% say it's his fault. So Trump is gaining, and the Democrats are losing. There's another part of the headlines. Let's dive into some more headlines for the day. Hear this, the driver crashed into the White House gate yesterday. He was arrested, hopefully charged to the fullest extent of the law. But these are the crazy leftists out there, and this is the frenzy they've been spun up in. No king's chance over the weekend. Hillary Rodham Clinton acting as if a remodel of the White House is something new. Well, a crazed driver says, I can solve this problem. I'm going to crash my car into the Secret Service gate of the White House. The unidentified driver was arrested. The car was towed, searched, and has been cleared. The Secret Service said the suspect drove a vehicle into the White House barricade at approximately 10:37 p.m. Eastern time. Authorities reportedly used bomb detection robot to inspect the vehicle, and it was cleared, but he drove into the Secret Service gate, is arrested, being interrogated, and the investigation is ongoing. But you have to remember that it's the left that continues to whip people into a frenzy, and in whipping people into a frenzy, guess what they're doing? They are causing people to want to be violent because they think they're saving America. Anybody heard of Caracas? Caracas is a beautiful city in Venezuela. At least it used to be a beautiful city in Venezuela. Well, there's panic in Caracas, kids. U.S. military and intelligence pressuring the Venezuelan government to get rid of the drug traffickers and stop trafficking in drugs. And so the government officials there are getting a little bit nervous. Here's the headline. The war on the cartels has seen the largest U.S. military deployment to the Caribbean since the dark days after the Cold War. Approximately 10,000 U.S. forces are now deployed to support the operations, mostly stationed in Puerto Rico. U.S. Marines are deployed aboard naval vessels all throughout the Caribbean. At least 8 Navy warships operating in the Caribbean Sea, or some people call it the Caribbean Sea. 1 nuclear-powered submarine is deployed to the region as well. Fighter jets, combat helicopters have been deployed to the area for regional operations, and strategic bombers have been upping the pressure on socialist Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro. Well, it's having its effect there in Caracas. Several strikes that have targeted alleged drug boats off the Venezuelan coast have disrupted the drug smuggling operations and claimed the life of over 27 counter narco terrorists. With this escalation and the activation of the CIA's covert operations and even lethal action, it's no wonder that many of the regime of Maduro are freaking out. Listen to this. The buildup is pressure. It's not being imagined. The result, they're just nervous there. And according to figures within the regime have been taking to changing their mobile phones regularly. They're all sleeping in different locations every night and purging any suspected dissenters in a series of internal witch hunts in the Venezuelan government, according to multiple people with knowledge. So the inner circle of Maduro is actually swapping out their cell phones. They're sleeping in different locations, so they're not in the same place twice. And they're also trying to find any person that they think is a traitor and going out after them. So Caracas is in a panic this morning and has been in a panic for a few days. I mentioned this story yesterday, that John Bolton is in terrible trouble. It's lawfare. It's warfare. Well, according to a historian caught up in the middle of the Russiagate, John Bolton is in the middle of all this. There's a blogger called Sevetiana Lokava, and she talks about the trouble that it's not good for John Bolton or his family, because it's not just the possession of classified documents. According to the blogger, he was leaking those documents and he was using his family to disseminate some of those documents out there. It's a real interesting read. It's at a website called joehoft.com. And I want to put it out there. I'll put it on the social media, facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. In just a bit, I'll put this up there so you can read it, that John Bolton is in terrible trouble. And now if this is true, then all of the, I guess, squawking and balking that comes from the media and the left that this is weaponization of the government. No, actually, they say this is a real big deal here, and that John Bolton and his family could be in some big time trouble. So we'll continue to follow that. If you don't follow me on the social media sites, do so. I know we're on a lot of different sites out there: Red Wave America, Media Equalizer. We're on the Twitter, the X, the YouTube, the Rumble. On most of those platforms, you can just search for my name and it'll pop up. If you're on the social sites, you can also look up Lakey Unleashed. You'll probably find my name. I think I'm a blue check mark on most of the places, so it's easy to find me. You'll look at it, and if this show's on there, it's probably a legitimate page. But also, the one that's not just my name is Facebook, facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. You have to spell that whole thing out. Jimmy Lakey fan page. Went right off the screen there. Jimmy Lakey fan page. You got to do that. All right. The question of the day was something that was normal 30 years ago, but it's not so normal now. It's almost luxurious. Let me give you a couple of more. Then let's do the meme roulette section of the program. A couple of more of these things that used to be luxurious. Calling a company and getting a person on the other end. Calling a company and actually having a receptionist answer the phone. Hello, Jimmy Lakey's office. Now, press 1 to do this. Actually, avoiding voicemail tree or voice tree hell is a good deal. New furniture made out of real wood. You might have to go back longer than 30 years for that. Legroom on an airplane. We did that. Affordable health care. I don't know if I was paying for health care 20, 30 years ago. I was on somebody else's insurance in, so I'm not sure. I think calling a person, a company, actually getting a person on the phone. Anybody remember when ads were, you weren't inundated with ads? If we didn't have computers then, but ads were on the television, in the newspaper, on radio. Now there's ads everywhere. You go to YouTube, streaming services, websites, social media. You go to purchase something at Amazon. Shoot, you can even go to the grocery store and they'll sometimes have a little ad. You go to the Circle K or the gas it up pump, whatever the little place. And I hate it when you're sitting there pumping your gas and a video ad starts on the screen. I'm like, really? I don't really want to have to watch this crap. Now ads are everywhere. And that's something that's being able to go somewhere without advertising was a big deal. It was normal, but now it's kind of a big deal. Ladies, you may not know this. I don't know if you have these in the ladies' facilities, but in the men's facilities, a lot of times above the urinal where the men stand up to do their business because they're real men, a lot of times there's advertising there. Yeah. Yeah, Ray says being talked to with respect. Ray, that's just on this program. We treat everyone with respect here on this show. Yeah, come to this program, Ray. We'll treat you with respect. But no, that's actually having. How about this? Not being asked for a tip everywhere you go. You tipped someone at a restaurant where they actually provided a service for you and you gave a tip 20, 30 years ago. That's it. You just knew you gave a tip, 10, 15, 20, whatever you chose to tip. Now, you can have somebody know that they're working at the fast food joint making $25 an hour because of low income minimum wage laws, and they're asking you for a tip. Arloa jumps in on the question of the day. Remember when you could call the operator and get a phone number? I do. There was... I think it was 411. You dialed up and you needed a listing, and you could call the city and get it. Yep. I don't know what happens now if you dial 0 on a phone. Do you know? Anybody know? Delilah work on that today. You used to be able to dial 0 and an operator. I need to make there were calls. I don't know what they were, but person to person. I know what a collect call was, because sometimes if you didn't have a quarter in the payphone, you'd call your home collect, and they'd say, please state your name. Come pick me up. And you'd hang up. And dear Mrs. Lakey, we have a collect call from come pick me up, a recorded voice. And she would deny the call. And sometimes she wouldn't come pick me up. But usually they came to pick me up. All right. Having an in-person meeting with your insurance agent and other advisors. I got some meetings today for the other work that I do. And did I tell you how much I don't like Zoom? Yeah, I don't mind it if I keep the camera off. But to have to sit there on display all the time, I've got an office and I'll work from there. Anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen, reminiscent, all the things that used to be kind of a regular, I don't know what a person-to-person call was. I don't know. I don't remember party lines. I don't remember that. Now, that's before my time. I do know when I used to go visit my grandparents in West Texas, they lived in a small town, and you just had to do, you only had to do five digits. So if their number was, let's say it started with 967 or something. There was the first 3. You didn't do area codes. You just dialed the last of the first 3, and then you dialed the other 4, and that dial you right to their house. And that was good because you were on a rotary dial then. And if you screwed that thing up, you got to start from the beginning on that one. All right, time for the stolen meme section of the show. Ray says not having to press 1 to spell English. Yeah, or to speak English. That would be a good thing. I like that one as well. All right, before we do the stolen memes, I want to remind you about Sherry, homeswithsherry.com. It's fascinating. I've always loved talking real estate. I'm surprised, actually. I didn't ever just get into real estate business. I like it. But then, sometimes I'll tell you what, I don't think I'd like being a realtor, but I do like the thought of real estate and the strategy involved. That's why I always talk about the strategy of Sherry Cree. There's a strategy to sell your home. There's a strategy to get top dollar for your home. There's a strategy on what you should do to your home or not do to your home. And just because you think of... It's gonna pay off on the sale. It may not pay off on the sale. Listen, talk to Sherry. A strategy session with Sherry is a big deal, and have that conversation. Strategize on the time, the pricing, the staging. All of these things she can take leadership on and really help it because, home buying, home selling, moving, packing, all that can add stress to your life. But you need somebody that's going to kind of partner with you, help you get across the finish line and just ease every step of the way. I know that some people on moving day, this is just the detail that Sherry thinks of. On moving day, a lot of folks out there will, on moving day, some people will, the realtor may send a pizza or stop by with a box of donuts or something, say happy moving day. Sherry actually has her husband help, and he prepares a full, really nice meal, hot meal. And I've been there, and Sherry's loading it up in the car, and she goes, I'll be back in a bit. I'm friends with the family. And she's delivering it personally to someone's house, and they're moving and carrying boxes, and suddenly they have a literal gourmet meal delivered. It's just details like that Sherry's going to look out for you. And if you're, if you've got a situation, maybe you're caring for elderly parents, taking over a home that you're going to sell because of that, you're a caretaking family looking to upgrade, she wants to be detailed. She'll give the details and help you find the solution you need. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. A lot of your success in real estate is going to come from successful strategy, and Sherry's going to help you get there. Homeswithsherry.com. Again, a lot of your victories in real estate are going to come from not just timing, but strategy, having the right one, and she can help you do that. Even if you're not selling till next year, have that session with her now and start getting ready so that she'll be ready to go with you as a partner down the road. All right, here we go. Let's do the memes. Ready? Here we go. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. There's a little boy in the high chair. I protested Trump today, Mommy. And Mommy says, who's my big boy? That's sick and wrong, but there's some leftists out there. Look just like that. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. The criticism for JFK, like they gave to The View, to his wife, Cheryl Hines. Listen to me. Pay attention, jackwagons. I'll read it. No, RFK Jr. is not a doctor, but since the Department of Health and Human Services was created in 1953, I hate to give you some history here, only 3 Health and Human Services secretaries have been doctors. One of Obama's Health and Human Service secretaries was an economist. On top of the fact that Bill Gates is not only not a doctor, but he doesn't have a college degree of any kind, yet you trust Bill Gates with your vaccine safety, and you question RFK Jr. when he raises up a little trepidation. Again, education, enlightenment, all of these things the left is missing out there, not thinking logically or through on any of these topics. You trust Bill Gates for his advice on that? And a lot of medical doctors out there that get kickbacks and bonuses from big pharmaceuticals when they have a fully vaccinated patient list. Listen, pay attention, my friends, pay attention. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Here we go. It's 2 people sitting on the cruise ship. Are these furries or humans? I don't know. I feel emotionally constipated. And they reply back, why is that? And the other person says, I haven't given a beep in days. Haven't given a poop in days about all this stuff. Yeah, that's what Delilah says about her job here. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Everybody hates being sung happy birthday, and everybody hates singing happy birthday. So what the heck are we doing here? Isn't it happy birthday? Why do we have to have the most depressing song? At least sometimes the restaurants pick up the pace and they have a fast one. Yeah, everybody hates having to sit there because the song drags on so much. By the way, I have a birthday coming up in November. Somebody asked me, what are you going to do? I said, probably nothing for my birthday. You don't have a party? I don't think since I was a teen I've ever had a party. I don't think I have. I don't think so. That's all right. Round around. Why? Never mind. I wanted to tell you last year. I was on my way to Africa. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. I love this one. Hey, kid, wait. You want to hear a story? Say the drag queen story hour. Kids run and say, not today, Satan. Not today. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. White House construction crew has found 1,357 more cocaine stashes right there in that East Wing. Old Hunter must have been at work there. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. It's called deviled eggs because the voices whisper and make you eat 25 of them. Have a deviled egg. Yeah, I've heard those voices before. Never made deviled eggs. I don't think I have the patience, but I like to eat them. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tune in tomorrow for the show. If you follow us on all the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, those of you tuned in live, don't forget to follow my Facebook page, facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. I'll put that piece up here in just a moment about John Bolton and his family and possibly being in real trouble. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for being a part of the program. I got to run, got things to get done today. Going to be a very busy day. But until we meet again tomorrow, make sure you make it back here. Send us an email, info@JimmyLakey, info@JimmyLakey.com, info@JimmyLakey.com. And also, if you'd like to advertise on the show, we'd love to hear from you as well. Meet again tomorrow. Our charity site's riverspromise.org. I am Jimmy Lakey. I'll see you tomorrow, all right? Go follow me on the Facebook or the Twitter. Just look for my name or facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. God bless you. God bless America. Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.